Welcome again, everyone. We're a day late this week. Today is Sunday afternoon, the 9th. Jim, you're on?
I sure am.
Dave?
I'm here, Bill.
So today, we could call this all kinds of stuff. We could call it Total Insanity World. We could call it, if you're not mad yet, you will be very shortly. Mad in the sense of nuts. I mean, news... The news cycle is so short now. Before the end of the day, there's 12 more pieces of news that piles on top of the news at the beginning of the day. I mean, I was gone for 3 days, and the amount that piled up while I was gone is unbelievable. So, Dave, I know you got, like 25 topics you want to talk about today. Why don't you get started?
Okay. Yeah, guys, as I said, normally what I try to do is, pick apart things during the week that I could question you on, because I think they're things that the listeners would like to hear what your thoughts are, what your opinions are. As we said before the talk, Jim and I had started earlier in the week, and we were going to try and focus on the fact that the United States budget really doesn't exist as a budget as we know it, because they have classified one of the biggest chunks of the budget, which is the Defense Department and HUD. And before we can get off the phone, there's 50 more things that occur that need to be addressed. So let's pick these apart one at a time. We'll try and do it on the quick because there are so many things. Jim, since we started this early last week, you thought it was really important for the readers and listeners to understand that they have no idea how much is being spent, because if you can't audit it, how do you know it's being spent? You want to pick up on that topic?
Well, I think it's an extremely important fundamental topic. What you've done is it would be like hiding your earnings or issuing false earnings in a corporation, or simply lying. Eventually, when people got the feel of what was going on, you couldn't expect any value in your common share. What does this mean to the dollar when one of the absolute key ingredients to the sharp pencil guys for analyzing currency value can't get the key figure? And then it started to break loose in every other direction.
I would add to that, Jim, when you cannot analyze something, when you cannot put a pencil or a calculator to it, what's the best thing to do? Walk away.
Well, you get out.
Right, you walk away.
Walk or run. I think they're going to run.
As far as the dollar is concerned, and there's other things, especially the arrest on the 1st, which we found out about on Wednesday. Like you said, run.
Yeah. And this is the first time gold in this week, and since you were away, the gold actually functioned as an alternative asset. In the midst of everything hitting the fan, it didn't go up like a rocket ship, but it did break out in certain key technical areas. So it's the first time we saw an alternative asset characteristic in gold that they couldn't take apart or didn't care to take apart. So it is, it's what we're talking about today, what we will be talking about today, is being reflected in what will be the last man standing. And it actually hasn't been like that in a very long period of time in terms of its action this week, guys.
Okay, moving right along. And again, people could look all this information up for themselves, but, our budget's all been classified. The money, we have no idea what they're spending. So we have no idea what a dollar's really worth. We have no idea how many are out there. We know there's trillions unaccounted for. And Professor Skidmore and Catherine Luster-Fitz are the go-to people on that. Okay, who still wants our dollars? I'm just going to read a quick quote here, and then Zero Hedge had the article. In the most blatant and transparent reaction to Washington's continued vassal isolation, the European Commission has reportedly formulated a plan to reduce the role of the dollar in international trade. Second article, the European Union is going to ditch the U.S. dollar and use its own currency in oil contracts worth 300 billion euros, an Iranian official said, quoting a European commissioner. We had already, Jim, you're on record saying every move away from the dollar by somebody is just piling on. It started years ago, and here we are now. How many places are now looking for alternatives to the dollar? All of them?
All of them.
Well, you can see that by the almost unknown country central banks buying gold.
Would that be Hungary?
Yeah. I mean, Hungary, buying gold. But Uzbekistan and places like that are doing the same. Little tiny places that, really don't make world economies. This is walkaways, Bill and David's turning into a runaway.
Bill, want to touch on that anymore or move along?
They're doing it for their own protection.
And again, so now we could segue into they're doing it for their own protection. Everybody should be aware of the arrest that's taken place, or detention, whatever you want to call it. They apparently picked off a Chinese national who was flying through Canada on her way home, and it just turns out that she's the CFO of probably one of the most important technology companies in China, employs 170,000 people, is the leader in 5G technology in the world. This company is like a national champion to the Chinese people. It is the most unbelievable insult to have used Canada to pick her off. I can't believe Canada has gone along with this, but they have.
Well, Dave, she was flying through Canada rather than the U.S. because there's been an arrest warrant out for her, and I don't remember what it's for. I mean, I'm trying to catch up as fast as I can on all the news since August.
Right. Well, allegedly,
she has been avoiding the United States, since August.
Right. Well, allegedly, what it is one of the companies that fall under the umbrella of her technology company allegedly did business with Iran and tricked our banks or some banks into, transacting what are technically supposed to be illegal transactions. Regardless of that, what we talked about, which was one of the scariest points, is this is the second time the president of our country has sat down with the president of China and surprised him over a lunch or dinner. The first one was they were having a lovely chocolate dessert when he leaned over the table and informed the president of China that, by the way, I just shot 100 missiles off at Syria. I hope, you don't take that personal. That slid. This one, they're in negotiating one of the biggest trade arguments probably ever to face the planet, and the claim is the president did not know that this woman was being picked off, yet John Bolton did know. Bill, I'll jump to you on this, and then Jim could follow up. Which is scarier, the fact that Trump didn't know or that he did know?
If it's true that he did not know, that's scarier.
I agree with you, Bill.
But I mean, either way, it's absurd.
Well, if he didn't know, it's out of control.
Well, if he did know, then obviously the Chinese now know that he and entire administration, entire country cannot be trusted.
Well,
and if he didn't know, then they got to be peeing their pants because who's sitting on the other side of the table?
What neocon?
Yeah, exactly.
Bill, I agree with you entirely. I couldn't argue anything you said.
And I want to point out that you have to make the leap regarding the SWIFT system. You have to make the leap regarding the NSA and Five Eyes. The world's seeing this woman arrested because her business transactions were tracked via SWIFT, via NSA. Why would you play in that game? The bottom line is you go to the Chinese clearing system, which is already in place. I mean, this is so dollar negative. I can't even. It's so dollar negative. It's just unbelievable.
Well, let me read you guys this, and we'll keep going with this because we've had this conversation. China owns an enormous amount of real estate throughout Canada and the United States. Canada just threw China under the bus. How many high-level Chinese have children in boarding school here, have very important positions, have a lot of wealth in these two countries? Would you feel safe if you were them, or would you repatriate your money as fast as you could? Jim?
Well, Vancouver is China. Hong Kong. The amounts of money that are in New York real estate from China are just bloody enormous. You'd certainly say, where the hell do I go? Bottom line is, you're not going home with that. You're certainly not staying in the dollar with that. You would be definitively concerned that because if you can afford to do that, you are somebody of relative importance, that either you'd be arrested or whatever assets you have would be confiscated. I would say another run.
And the question is, who do you sell it to?
Well,
who are you going to sell it to, and at what price?
Well, you know, when you want to sell something, you sell it at whatever the bid is. If there's no bid, you're stuck.
But see, Jim, real estate, I agree with you, but real estate is different in that it's not a bid-ask market. It's an offer. In a selling market, there's offer prices. There's no bid.
Well,
you got to wait for the bid to come and hit you. And there's also,
I agree on its illiquidity, but you certainly wouldn't be you certainly wouldn't let anything sell lower than what you're willing to take.
Yeah, but if you're running, you're willing to take anything.
Yeah, that's what happened. I didn't say they're going to be nice when it happened. I
and
just said if you could sell, you're gone. If you're the head of a major corporation or a major manager of a technological corporation, you would be suspected. It's not as the NSA you can't get rid of, but you certainly can get out of the SWIFT system in an instant by going to the alternate BRIC system.
But getting out of real estate, the bid doesn't exist. Interest rates.
Well, I'm not arguing that. I'm just
saying has dried up. The
yeah.
bids don't exist. And one other problem that exists with real estate is that real estate has to be recorded. You know, when you buy something or sell something, it gets recorded. The deed gets recorded.
Yes, it
now,
does.
In the bond market or the stock market or whatever, the ESF can step up and throw literally trillions of dollars at a market, and nobody's any the wiser except for the insiders. How is the ESF or the Federal Reserve or anybody going to step up and buy real estate? They cannot.
They aren't. They're going to get stuck generally with the real estate indebtedness from the average Joe. But these houses and these estates, are worth a lot. Are magnificent that they have. And if you are willing to throw it away at a garbage value today, the chances are that you might in fact find a buyer. In time.
How about a month from now? Or 2 months?
How about a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about? Yes, exactly.
How about a week? So it's a musical chair situation, which has become in which half of the chairs just disappeared. A lot of people are going to sit down in the next time the music stops and are going straight down to the floor. The concern that we all have is by the time this telephone broadcast is over, there's probably 2 more news articles of significant importance. I mean, the Second French Revolution is not by any amount of means just a temporary thing over a gas price. That's the biggest lie on the face of the earth.
Did you see the logo on the back of these yellow jackets?
No, what did it say?
It's a pair of scissors stuck into the eye in the pyramid.
Now, that says it. That that gives the elites a message, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not about gas taxes.
No, it's not. They've had enough of all
way
the
bigger.
crap they're going through, and it's purely economic. When you get down to the bottom line, they can't make it. They can't make ends meet, and their retirement programs are absolute and utter poverty.
And
Well,
that's
what's the most
case all over
endangered?
the world.
What's the most endangered species on the face of the earth that we've been saying for years? The pensioner.
Yep.
Okay? Totally endangered. And who's the next? Fixed income. Meaning the geezers, like me. Old people. That's the way you want to bring down Medicare. Let us all die. This is very serious beyond what you can, in the information you can gather anywhere. It is the second French Revolution, and it's been building for a long time, and it's not going to go away during the weekdays. Wait till next weekend. And I got to tell you, anybody deserves it. It's that boob who runs that country. What's he, 30-some-odd years old? What does he know? Macron. What a name. Macron. It is getting worse by the minute. As we speak, there's more happening.
Go ahead, David.
So, and we don't have markets. We have machines that have no capacity on the downside. On the downside, it's a total crash. And without the ability to open it up in the morning, up and keep it up, it's flash crash to hell.
Okay. Well, it's again, that's where we're going next. I titled this blah, 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 because every minute there's a new headline to move the market up or down. And I'll read a little piece. After tumbling as low as 800 points, the Dow Jones jumped to a session high just after 3:30 p.m., pulling the S&P with it and blasting the NASDAQ into the green as a Wall Street Journal story quickly made the rounds across trading desks, which was centered on the same dovish line first introduced by Powell last week, namely that the Fed is considering whether to signal a new wait-and-see mentality after hiking rates in December, which could slow down the pace of rate increases next year. The article goes on to say, how is this bullish for a market which already prices in less than one rate hike in 2019 is unclear, but it provided enough of an upward momentum boost to send the Dow to 150 and still rising. Every 5 seconds, whether Donald tweets a story, Kudlow says there is no story, Wall Street Journal says there's a story, sooner or later, you can't jawbone everything. Can you, Jim?
No. You can't keep this going. You can't camouflage forever. You can't manipulate forever. And there are no markets. We've destroyed them. There are no specialists. We've destroyed them and only kept them as beard for not delivering on a short sale. My love of life is being a specialist in the over-the-counter market. There is no such thing. The system has been destroyed repeatedly. And the next is there is no repair. The wool got pulled over everybody's eyes in 08 and 09. It's not getting pulled over this time. They will go to QE with a new name. What it is, I am not sure, but it will end up being debt monetization, the same as QE is. No other alternative. And it almost looks like Trump's world is collapsing around him. He's got more problems than most people could even think about in terms of his need to balance in order to maintain.
Well, how do you mope the fact that Chinese imports of U.S. goods last month was down 25%? That's reality.
Well, so far lying on statistics has been a great way. So far, lying has been the way.
But the bottom line is there has to be cash flow. There has to be
yes.
cash flow to create the liquidity to service the debt that's outstanding, which is double what it was 10 years ago.
Yes.
That's the reality.
And gold will have to be involved in the solution. And the idea that there isn't enough gold around for the solution, you have addressed many times, is all the gold you need times 10. All you got to do is see the price go up.
Yeah, at this price, there's not enough gold.
Yeah.
Well, Hugo Salinas Price did that great little piece that I know you posted, Bill. And exactly how many zeros got added? I mean, that's how simple it is. Just add zeros to the back of it. Mexico did it. Why can't we?
It's called balancing the balance sheet. There's no other way out of going broke. Okay. However you do it, that's how you do it. Your balance sheet has gone totally insolvent. You've got to find a way of coming back to neutral. Well, you tell me what way you can come back to neutral in this type of situation that we're in now. And the answer is Salinas is right, and it will happen. And the reason that the market has been so depressed in silver and gold is that the people who have brought this upon us are not stupid. And they know, just like we three know, what's the last man standing. And if you wanted to pick up all the physical you possibly could, you would want to depress it with counterfeit paper. And 300 to 1 or 500 to 1, you can't sustain that in terms of ounces of gold that exist in the warehouse versus ounces of gold sold as futures. People are getting tired of seeing these redacted papers, which are the entire paper. People are getting tired of these actors, these characters that are supposed to be, or were at one time, what we consider the rule of law, and they turn out to be the worst offenders and criminals. And in truth, treason is in season. Okay, treason is in season, and nothing is being done about it. Not only the rule of law, it's the rule. It goes well beyond the rule of law. It's the Constitution of all the major nations, and this is coming to a head. There is no question. Personally, I think it's coming to a head right now. I don't think you got to wait months. I don't think even that you might not even have to wait weeks. But that 50-day forecast by one of the few market timers still with any respect is a reflection that he's watching the guts of the algorithms. And the reason why anything would go down from $750 off or $800 to plus has nothing to do with what people call markets. Cyberspace, Nintendo game, price discovery has also been destroyed. So when it comes in, you see what happens. So we have actually shot ourselves in the foot repeatedly. And we have destroyed everything we put our hands on as a nation and as a financial entity. And the world is starting to realize it. And again, last week, gold was an alternative asset, which has not been permitted by the manipulative interest in gold and silver for many years.
Well, Jim, the nuts and bolts to make that 50-day forecast happen, and I mean it could be 5 days or 5 hours.
It would have to have the same category because the 50 days is what he's trying to say, so he doesn't look like a nut. Okay.
Well, my point is that the Chinese, at some point, are going to retaliate. And how would be the best way to retaliate? You don't have to blow out treasuries. I mean, you could do that if you want. All you have to do is buy contracts on COMEX and stand for delivery.
Well, they'll do it through the system.
And it's over.
It is over. And they and the Soviets, the Russians, are running the show more so than clearly we or anyone else is. And I put a little note in J.S. Mindset saying, forgive me for I have sinned. I bought a breakout on gold. I haven't done that in years. The reason why I've been quiet, you guys know, because there was nothing to say other than last man standing. However, now, the only place there really may be a market might be in gold and silver, but it certainly isn't in equities, and it certainly is now where the computers destroy the computers. We reached the point where the sharks are eating the sharks. Soon, one fat shark starves to death because he ate everything there is to eat. And that's what this last week, in my opinion, screams at us.
And the size of the window to do what it is that you need to do is so small. I mean, we could go from a Monday to a Friday or even a Monday to a Tuesday, and all of a sudden, the supply's gone.
Well, in terms of gold, the supply isn't there, okay? It simply is not there. And when people start looking at, if it ever becomes clear, the biggest scandal in gold will be a lot of the storage facilities are not legit. And the gold you think you have, you don't have. So that in a sense explains what the vacuum cleaner has been on the physical. And the physical market up to now, the development of the physical exchanges has been the most hidden, quiet, dark place where money was safe, but statistics don't even give a hint of the reality of the transactions and accumulation that's taking place there. I think it's going to explode.
Well, we'll cover that soon because I have a couple points on gold that we can get to as we move along here. One of the things I'd like to bring again to attention because it's just so blatantly obvious what's taking place. The world's largest cryptocurrency is beginning to wind down and is close to becoming worthless, according to Santa Clara University finance professor. Well, we told you that over a year ago. You know, it was a great run if you could have grabbed it. If you could have grabbed that run, taken your money off the table and bought gold, you would have been a hero. But cryptocurrencies are a scam. You guys want to add anything to that, or is the professor just saying what we've said all along?
He's realizing what we said all along. And yes, cryptocurrencies probably will go down in history as one of the biggest scams that ever took place. Because the guy who wrote the program always has a back door, and the back door is where value went. So where did the $18,000 in value go on the Bitcoin? Well, no, out the back door.
But Jim, how are you going to transact business on Mars if you don't have Bitcoin?
Because you got to be on Mars first, okay? And I think maybe we were talking about Mars. I have great respect for the two men that, felt positive on the coin, except I think they were delving into areas that they really don't have a deep understanding of.
Well, you have to ask yourself, and I'll ask you guys this, who profited by running the price up? Who sold it at the top? I don't believe it was an accident. MSM played the general public like a cheap fiddle into this stuff by constantly covering it, running these stories. The front page headline should have been, "Do not buy into the tulip mania." But nobody wants to hear that. When the party's going on, nobody wants to hear, "Cheese it, the fuzz are coming." I mean, this is crazy.
No, instead the headline
always follow the money if you want to know what happened. Okay? Where did that go? And I'm telling you, it came out the back door of the guy who wrote the program, or the people who wrote the program.
Well, Dave, instead you were hearing headlines, Bitcoin's going to be $100,000 by the end of 2018.
Where are the Bitcoin billionaires sold up there? Who are they? When you buy nothing, expect nothing. I mean, somebody's got to be laughing hysterically under some false Japanese name that wrote the program. And remember, the program was originally in a national security agency paper back in the 90s.
Right.
Okay? That's where where was it invented? Invented by the government. Okay? In the 90s. And you're right. Put through the roof by the extraordinary, bullish propaganda that was published in every newspaper on earth. Who owns the newspapers? Follow the money is the answer. And if there is no rule of law, if your Department of Justice and your FBI is corrupt, and if the top is corrupt, believe me, the place is corrupt. If that's the culture of the top, it's the culture of the bottom. And we're never going to know. The fact that Trump has a tool that he could use by getting rid of these redactions and taking what is considered top secret and making it public information, and he doesn't. Why? He gets hit every day. The guy's got to have rhinoceros skin. Why does he not hit back if he's got if he has a weapon as powerful as he has? I simply don't understand. And he has that weapon, and he doesn't use it.
Well, December 5th was supposed to be unredaction day. And, of course, December 5th was George Bush funeral day.
There seems to always be a cover from the cover. The dates that are planned for these things seem to be very useful. Watch out for the Christmas vacation, guys. Okay, when is nobody paying attention to anything? December 20th through maybe January 5th. Be careful, because if it's coming now, it's going to be a Christmas gift and a New Year's shock.
Okay.
That's my position.
Absolutely, and that's why let's jump to where last week we went over in depth what was going on in Ukraine. The New York Times, for the lack of a better word, is one of the mouthpieces of the deep state. They went out of their way to allow Peter Poroshenko, who is president of Ukraine, to write a half-page opinion in the paper titled, "Putin must be punished. Russia cannot be allowed to get away with its brazen aggressions against Ukraine. The West needs to act." You guys talk to a lot of people. Is there anybody you know who's willing to go to war with Russia over Ukraine?
Nobody. And on top of that, who are the Ukrainians? That's the modern Nazi party. I mean, nobody knows what the lineage is of the guys who are running that for us.
Okay, then I'd like to just read something here quick, because then we can go through this and move on, because we'll burn in daylight. An American destroyer sailed off the Russian coast near the Pacific Fleet base in, I can't even pronounce it, Vladivostok, in a first such stint since the Cold War. Another U.S. ship is expected in the Black Sea soon amid tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The USS McCampbell went into the vicinity of Peter the Great Bay to challenge Russia's excessive maritime claims and uphold the rights, freedoms, and lawful use of the sea enjoyed by the U.S. and others, Lieutenant Rachel McMahon, a spokesman for the Pacific Fleet, said. Again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I just want to bring it to people's attention. Like Jim's saying, keep your eye on the ball, because we have no idea from one day, let alone from 1 minute to the next, what's really going on. And, rather than spend a lot of time on that, do you guys have anything you want to add to that?
I got one short.
No.
I have
Go
one
ahead.
short comment. If I was a sailor on that ship, I would definitely keep an eye out for freighters.
Hey, wise words. There you go. You know, again, that's before we get into, you know, anybody paying attention what's going on, you know, with Iran. Again, we've got the neocons jumping up and down that Iran's doing this, Iran's doing that. A rumor of war. You know, every day we've got these new neocon made-up situations, and it's like, literally, can we tell when something's going to happen? No. You know, nobody's got an exact crystal ball. But what you could do is look at all the landmines laying around and say to yourself, and I'll use the exact words that they had used about gold, and I'm looking for the article. Gold is for the I don't knows, meaning we don't know what's going on. I mean, if you could keep track of this Rubik's Cube and tell me more than we're trying to tell you, then you guys are geniuses, and, you know, somebody should just go run world affairs, because there's so many things going on at any one given time that the only thing you know is if you own gold and have it in your hands. Guys, how many times have you said that? And you want to say it one more time?
Stand on a mountain of gold if you can. Stand on one coin if that's all you can do.
Bill?
In a world awash in debt, meaning liabilities, you want your savings to be in a non-liability money. That's gold. That's silver. Okay,
move along. I get into this problem where I believe we have different sets of laws for different people. And again, since we posted this about Jeffrey Epstein, I just wanted to follow up on it. I think I also posted that he settled out of court, wrote an I'm sorry letter. The numerous young women who say they were sexually abused by wealthy Clinton-linked financier Jeffrey Epstein no longer appear set to testify after a last-minute settlement was reached in a closely watched civil suit. And then we could jump to, we have Moonves, the CBS, NBC, whatever TV executive he is. He now is in a fight to get his $120 million after the New York Times ran a great story. It appears that he had a full-time oral sex woman working for the company who he could just call at will. I mean, are we living in Sodom and Gomorrah, and are they playing by the same rules as we are?
Find me an honest person in government. Even an honest war hero in government, or supposed war hero.
Yes, it's
take a look at the recent burials, and look at the solemnity. You think you're burying friggin' saints? Okay, they're not saints. They're successful politicians. McCain, that thing took a week to get that guy buried, and Trump's comment may not have been entirely wrong. So, come on, let's keep going with more of what's taken place since Bill went to visit a pal.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Do you want to add anything to that one, Bill?
I was just going to say, yes, it's Sodom and Gomorrah, and no, we don't live by the same rules as the elites.
No, I mean, even Congress.
They got no rules.
Right.
There are no rules.
They make it up as they go.
Congress has a slush fund to pay off the women who complained about the sexual harassment. That's our money. I don't get it. But again, the public's got to figure out what they're willing to put up with.
You're not supposed to get it. That's why.
Right. Well, let's jump to the latest story. It appears that we're going to have a new AG, or a rehash of an AG, who worked for H.W. Bush from 91 to 93, and it looks like we are going to have a Fox newscaster for our new ambassador to the UN. I mean, and again, the woman may or may not be highly qualified, but you put her up against Russia's ambassadors, and we're like at night and day difference here. I'm kind of at an awe for the picks for the jobs that we keep seeing. How about you?
Oh, he picks pretty women.
Well, when I saw the pick for the Attorney General, I got a question now whether there's going to even be arrests. I mean, that's so disappointing.
If there was going to be, it would be cooking, okay? And it's not cooking, Bill. Everybody knows all those crimes have been committed, and nobody gives a flying whatever if anything is ever done about it. Yet, if you went and watched the news stations and read the generally accepted news media, I mean, you can almost not believe what a criminal we supposedly have as President of the United States, while these criminals are considered to be good, active, and clean Americans.
Okay, did either of you guys see the story? And actually, I think New York Times was the one who did the story. I caught it through Veterans today about the illegal immigrant who has been employed by the Trump National Golf Club in New Jersey. And,
yeah.
It's like every day the headlines just get better and better, and I'm just sitting here saying, well, it does not appear that we all are playing by the same rules. I'm not quite sure what those rules are, but it seems to be a moving target. With that being said, there's not a lot to talk about there. I'd like to just touch on a couple things. GE closed the week at $7 and a penny. Deutsche Bank closed at $8.73. Is it time to start worrying?
Both on the way to zero.
You know we're in a boom, don't you? There's great economic recovery that's taken place since election. And this is not going to end. If you think it'll end before 2020, it's only going to get worse. It's getting worse every day. How can you say something that's in motion and whose momentum is increasing is going to stop? And if you had a momentum measure on the strategy of resistance, you got to say resistance is powerful, and the ability to lean against it almost looks non-existent. He's got the tool. Use the tool.
Well, David, neither of those two, GE nor Deutsche Bank, can default because each one of them in their own right is systemic in nature.
Too big to fail.
Yeah, either of those will take the entire system down.
Yeah, too big to fail on both of them. We're right back with Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers. And there they are. And there's no argument that can be made that statement I just made is fallacious, untrue, or uneducated. It is exactly correct.
Okay, ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Go for it.
5 o'clock. I like to end the segment with a little bit of good news this week.
Where's that?
Where?
Right, exactly. Where is that? I had to really dig deep for this, but when I saw it, I had to save it because it's just too great. Deputies charged third inmate in escape plot that left one escapee dead after he was shot dead by a homeowner. The Pickens County Sheriff said one inmate is dead and another is back behind bars after they escaped the Pickens County Jail early Tuesday morning. On Friday, they also announced a third man had been charged in escape. I'll just give you the roundup. Deputies say around 2:40 a.m., 2 to 3 inmates physically assaulted 2 detention officers in what Sheriff Rick Clark called a premeditated plan to escape the facility. Around 2:53 a.m., Sheriff Clark says the first 911 calls came into the communications center notifying deputies of the incident. Okay, I'm going to skip this along.
Hey, David?
Yeah?
Sorry to piss on your parade, but there is some bad news.
What?
The relatives of the dead guy are going to sue the homeowner for shooting the guy in his house.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
the best news, it was a woman. Deputies say at the time Dill was being arrested, a female homeowner living in Menace Mill Road called 911 reporting an unknown subject had kicked in her back door and she had shot him. Sheriff Clark said the victim, a concealed weapons permit holder, was home alone at the time of the incident, fired one shot, striking the escaped convict. Deputies said when they arrived at the home, the suspect was dressed in prison clothing and was immediately identified as the second escapee. He's dead. The sheriff said she did a great job. So there is good news on the horizon. Jim,
yeah, but you better have, if you have a carry permit, or if you carry, you better carry insurance, which is offered by NRA. And there's a book called 6 Things Not to Say to the Police when you found yourself in the untenable position of having to take someone's life to protect your own, if you want to stay out of jail for the rest of your life.
And there's really only one thing to say.
Nothing.
I want my lawyer.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay? Lawyer. That's all. You're absolutely right. And they're going to haul her off. And whatever she got in the world, she's not going to have. And she'll be lucky if he doesn't do time. Because that's the way it is.
Well, maybe she could borrow from, what's her name, Blasey Ford's GoFundMe account.
I thought that was a good way to
I think she probably, hey, listen, she GoFundMe, I'd throw some money at her.
I would too.
Okay. I think you're right. I think that's probably one of the last things now that GoFundMe could raise any money for.
Well, that was the end of the questions. We covered them all. You know, I could go on for hours, but I tried to get the major points in from the week. Anything else you guys got?
Yeah, I would love to stretch this until, for those hours you need. But we either have to do more than once a week, or we've got to make it longer than most people's attention span, because it's going to explode soon, guys. Okay. The only living guru that is around that has any kind of reputation just said 50 days. He elongated that, so he give himself some room, because he's no dope. What he's saying is 5 days, not 50 days. I'm on Bill's side. Could be tomorrow.
Yeah, I would just add that whatever you're gonna do, you better do it.
You're not kidding.
Get it done.
Yes,
I'm just anxious to deliver I doubled my food supply, and now I'm looking out every day to see it get delivered.
Well, if you doubled your food supply, you better get more toilet paper.
There's some things you can do with, and there's some things that you can't do without. Okay, you figure out which one of those two is more important, and with that, the show probably just went to hell.
All right, guys, I'll get this posted. Sorry, but I wasn't around.
All right, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll talk during the week.
Okay, one last thought. Moss is a disinfectant, so you don't have paper, use moss. See you guys.
Enjoy. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.